So this is the coolest thing ever. And it's not just me. It's me and Amber because I'm living here to live her legacy. So anyway, I keep these with me. It's a little blue pouch wherever I go. And so if I'm in the market, if I feel led, I'll just say, oh, I have something for you. And then I'll say, I'm a pebble thrower in the still pond of life. And these are my pebbles. So I'll say, choose one for yourself and one for someone you love. It's the coolest thing.
Oh,
so these are our little Embrace the Angel cards. I'm not selling anything with it. It's a message from the angels, right? And on the back is a guardian angel coin, little pewter coin with a word. There's 5 words. So then I'll say to them, okay, so choose one. So peel off your pebble and let's see what your special word is. Helen, these tiny little cards and coins have just changed lives. I've been doing it about 15 years now, and people have dropped to the floor uncontrollably crying. And most of them are like, oh, can I hug you? And I'm like, embrace the angel. Come on. And it's been absolutely phenomenal. Just to give one tiny little coin that I throw into the still pond of life, not knowing where these ripples go. And I started doing choose one for yourself and one for someone you love because now they're pebble throwers.
Can you imagine how you would cope if you knew your only child was going to die and you were only 27? On the beautiful side of grief today, I get to speak to Amber's incredible mum, Patti DiMiceli, who went through this with Amber at the tender age of 4.5. Amber was not afraid. She even picked out the clothes she wanted to wear to heaven. The story of how Patti and Amber prepared for this event, what she describes as a miracle, will bring tears to your eyes, so make sure you have some tissues handy. How Patti viewed this event is also profound. It is one that has elevated and sustained her and many others around the world since her death. I already feel that this is going to be one incredible and inspiring episode. We will delve into the book that Patti channeled from Amber, which helped to understand why Amber was here on Earth and what happens when we die. Now, Patti herself is an earth angel with so many angelic connections. She was born in the City of Angels, LA, at the Queen of Angels Hospital and describes herself as chosen. Patti is a life coach and end-of-life doula, a grief educator and coach, an inspirational entrepreneur, activist, author, and teacher who lives in her tiny mobile home, Angelina, which she tows with Larry, her Ford F-250 Lariat Super Duty. I don't know about you, but I'm excited to hear this incredible story from a beautiful soul who touched my heart from the moment we connected. So a very warm welcome to you, Patti.
Gosh, thank you, Helen. From across the world even, right?
I know. So it's your evening, I understand. Is that correct? Around about 5 o'clock where you are?
5 o'clock, yeah. 5 o'clock.
Yeah, and it's 9 a.m. my morning the next day. And I wanted to also add an additional welcome to our 2 beautiful angels, Amber and Tal, because I know that they are here with us in this interview. Their beautiful energy, I can feel them both. And and I'm sure they're going to influence us a wee bit as well. Now, there is so much rich information that you share, Patti, that it was really difficult for me to decide what to dig and delve into in this episode. But firstly, I think the correct starting place is to hear about this beautiful little angel who entered your life and stole your heart. Can you share with us your time earthside with Amber?
Desperately wanted her. And I actually know the moment that she was created and conceived. And pregnancy was good. I worked up until the day before she was delivered. Her birth was pretty horrific. They basically tried to drug me up and then pull her out of me because the doctor had a golf appointment. So it was pretty awful. But when she came out, it was very interesting because on her first picture, she was very swollen because it was traumatic for her. But her hand is like right here, which is where the tumor started. Very interesting. But what I did do is I realized that we all, through Amber, I realized this, we all have a pre-verbal memory of being in the womb and being born, however it became. I remember being in the womb. I remember coming out, and it was pretty painful. But I was mindful of that when Amber was born. And her father, Michael, and we lived in Whittier, California. As you mentioned, I grew up in California and just treasured every moment that I was with her. I had a premonition that I would die before Amber was 6. And so I documented everything, movies, audio, drawings, every single scrap of paper she touched. And so I wanted her to know me after I died. And so we ended up Michael was from Connecticut. So we ended up, when Amber was about 10 months old, moving back to Connecticut, and we lived in the country. And I used to go walking with her in the woods. I'd put her in a backpack and we'd pack a lunch and sit under the pine trees in the winter. And it was such a beautiful time to just share life, just the simple life. Unfortunately, Michael was very abusive. And one time when we were in Connecticut and he was beating me, and I looked down and Amber was like right there at my side, and her little face she was so terrified. And when I looked at her, I saw me. I saw my childhood because it was extremely abusive. And I said, I won't put her through that. So I ended up leaving Michael. We took a train to Grand Central Station and then a Greyhound bus out to California. And I was homeless for a while with her. My brother and sister-in-law asked us to come live with them, which we did. And it was just a beautiful, simple time. I'm an artist, a graphic artist as well. And so I created these paintings and I literally pounded the pavement selling these things so we could make a living. And it was difficult, but I knew that just the things that we were going through on Earth paled in comparison to the reason that we were together and that we were here. I didn't know why. I honestly didn't. But I just had this sense that this was very powerful. So we ended up coming back to Connecticut. We took a train from Pasadena to Grand Central Station. I had purchased a bike in this thrift shop for $10 with a bike seat on the back for Amber. So I brought that. I had a wooden suitcase. We landed at Grand Central during rush hour. So it was like, oh my gosh. But she was a great traveler. I actually have a movie of the whole trip across country with her. We found a little studio apartment next to my friend Jan, and I cleaned houses, and I found a job at Waterbury Lock in downtown Milford, Connecticut on the Green. It was a factory, and it was winter time, so I didn't have a car. I had the bicycle. So I would put Amber on the back of the bicycle and make her like a little papoose, so all like snugly warm, and we would ride through the snow, and I would drop her off at daycare and go to work. And it was a beautiful life that we had together. It was, compared to many people, it probably would be like poor, perhaps destitute, but we found so many things to do with each other, and it was a beautiful life. Yeah, so I wanted to find a better job so that I could get a better place for Amber and I, but we ended up homeless again. I had bought a small Volkswagen station wagon, and we ended up living in that for a while, and I really did want to get ahead. And so I wrote a letter to the newspaper saying, I'm trying to raise my daughter. I just need a better job. I don't want to have to be homeless, and I don't want to go back to California. So this woman, Sue Kelly, we called her Bambi, she had a room for rent for $25 a week. So Amber and I lived with Bambi, And Bambi had 3 sons die. And I remember Amber was my world. I was a single mom. And I remember Bambi, I remember looking at her and she was laughing and laughing with so much joy. And I would think to myself, oh my God, if Amber ever died, I would die, certainly. And now that I'm on the other side of the death of my daughter, I know now where that joy comes from. And it comes from her. So in August of 79, I had found a job at construction.
Good.
And it paid $8 an hour. I was like, oh my gosh, this is the most I've ever made. And so I was one woman and 350 men on a commercial job in New Haven, Connecticut. And so I would pick Amber up from daycare and then we'd come home. And I remember it was a hot summer night. It was August of 79. And I was stroking her hair, just telling her stories and putting her to sleep. And she was laying on her tummy. And I remember stroking her hair, and right behind her right ear, I pulled back her hair and I saw a lump. And my first thought was, oh my God, cancer. I didn't even know kids got cancer. This was 79. And then I heard, it's not you who will die, it's Amber. And so for the next 8 months, I went to 8 different doctors all over the state of Connecticut, trying to convince them to biopsy it. And they would say things like, you're her mom, you're not a doctor. And lots of kids get lots of lumps and bumps. And I would say, how do you know it's not cancer? And they're like, we don't want to put her under anesthesia. So it went back and forth. Amber fell and hit it on a fireplace, the tumor. And I rushed her into the hospital and they operated the next day. And I was like, are you sure it's not cancer? No, it couldn't possibly be. And so they excised the tumor and they found a few cancer cells in her spinal fluid, but no other cancer anywhere in her body. And so they were saying chemotherapy, surgery, and radiation. I'm a single mom, but I was pretty intuitive at the time, and I still am. And I just said, wow, I allowed them to give her radiation, but I didn't want them to give her chemotherapy. There was a lot of children being taken away from their parents because they wouldn't give them chemotherapy at the time. They're in the newspapers and such. So I was dubious about the chemotherapy because it was just at the cusp. It was just starting off chemotherapy. So when Amber was discharged, I went to the New Haven Register and made a public plea. Is there any other cancer therapies around the world? And the Associated Press picked up on it. And I started fielding, it was before computers. So I started fielding like telegrams and phone calls, and I documented everything, just trying to make sense. What do I do next? So an angel, Barbara Newington, actually found Dr. Lawrence Burton, who's one of the founders of the immunotherapy. And he was exiled, if you will. They wouldn't let him practice immunotherapy here in the US. So they said, you can't practice here. So he ended up in Freeport, Bahamas. He set up an immunotherapy clinic. Barbara paid for us to go there. Dr. Burton did the entire therapy for free for Amber. 2 weeks after we arrived in Freeport at his clinic, Dr. Burton was on 60 Minutes. And that was a Sunday night. And on a Monday morning, when I went to the clinic, the line was literally around the block down the road. People from all over the world were coming to see their last hope. Anyway, I helped out at the clinic. The therapy consisted of pulling or drawing blood and then measuring certain protein fractions, part of your immune system. And then from good donated blood, Dr. Burton would make up those protein fractions so that your own immune system could fight the cancer. So I drew Amber's blood and then took it on the bicycle. I had a little blood rack on the back and drove it to the clinic, and then got little 1cc syringes and had to give them every hour to her. So I put on a little butt. And then it turned out I ended up like going to different apartment complexes, pulling the blood of many cancer patients because you couldn't stay at the clinic. So you had to stay in a hotel. Yeah. So I did that. The therapy worked, the immunotherapy, because there was a small metastasis that started to grow. And then she got tonsillitis and her immune system couldn't keep up. Dr. Burton paid for us to go up to Montreal to a hospital there to see if they could save her life. David Stewart, who owns hospitals in Montreal, paid for everything. And she was off the therapy for about a week. And during that time, then the metastasis doubled in size. So we had to find a surgeon to debulk what they could so that we could use the therapy. But because we were in the media and on TV and in the newspapers, and politically we were like a hot potato, we couldn't find anybody to help us in the US. So Bernie Siegel, he's a surgeon in New Haven, he offered to take Amber and treat her as his own. And he's a maverick, so he didn't care what other people thought in the medical establishment. So we flew home and admitted her to St. Raphael's in New Haven and tried to save her life, but they couldn't. So I went down to the chapel and I just heard, "Let Amber come to me, let her come home." I was standing in the gift shop while she was doing her last test. And I heard, and when I say heard, I don't mean like a voice. There were words, but I think they were my words, but it was like something in my head. But I was standing in line getting something for Amber and I heard, "Turn around." And I turned around and there was a big rack of keys, big golden keys. And the words, "Give this to Amber and tell her it's the key to heaven. So when she dies, she can open the golden gates." Here it is right here. I keep it next to me.
Oh,
isn't that beautiful?
That is beautiful and powerful. And
home, I made her a rainbow room. She always wanted a rainbow room. Bernie helped her with using spontaneous drawings that he uses with his cancer patients. And we were able to learn a lot about living and about dying. We made the best of the last. She's lived about another month. But yeah, as you mentioned, she chose the clothes that she wanted to go to heaven in. And she went into a coma just after midnight on my 27th birthday. And my second husband, Gary, he was with me. We brought her down. She wanted to die at home. And we brought her, and I actually recorded everything. I took photographs and recorded it. And again, I'm not sure why I did this at the time. I kept a journal too and took a lot of photographs, but again, I didn't have any reasons. So as I'm telling her, "Amber, thank you so much for showing me what love is. You have the best buns in town." And I was telling her every single thing I wanted her to know. Even though she was in a coma, tears started to come down her eyes. And I wiped them away, and I realized she wasn't afraid to die. Most children are not afraid. I've never met a child that's afraid to die. Most children are not. But then I continued to talk. A whole bunch of tears came down. And I realized that she wasn't afraid to die, but she was afraid to leave me behind.
oh,
And when I said, "I'll be okay, Amber, go now, be with God. Be with God, Amber." When I said those exact words, she stopped breathing. And I physically felt her leave her body. It was like goosebumps times a million. My whole body was buzzing. She came right through my body and back into the light and then dispersed. 2 things before she died. She said many things, and I recorded everything. I'm writing another book, but she said, "Mom, I know I'm here to help a lot of people." And the other thing she said before she died, she said, "Mom, when I die, I'll still be Amber. I'll just be different." So at the exact moment that she left her body, I physically felt her leave, and she didn't go anywhere. Like she said, she simply changed. This was so unexpected. I thought when I wrote in my journal that what I would do when Amber died, I would fall on the ground. I would be inconsolable. It would be the worst thing in my entire life. And it was the exact opposite. It was like I was gifted a miracle of physically feeling her presence, her spirit. So I have an audio recording of it at this moment. Had I not recorded it, I probably just would have passed into history or memory. But I transcribed it for Embrace the Angel, which is her book. And I'm so glad I did, because this miracle about what happens after our bodies die, we just change. I didn't lose a daughter. She's always been here. And I'm blessed. I'm now, and it's been 43 plus years. I'm now living Amber's legacy of helping a lot of people. And I cannot tell you how incredibly blessed I feel. There was many times where I was feeling very unworthy. God, come on. I'm so human.
Yeah.
Why me? And then I heard, that's exactly why you. So I came to realize that I'm an angel in a human cloak. And when my body dies, I just remove the cloak.
Wow. Oh, I knew this would be so powerful when you shared it, because there's so much wrapped up in there. And the thing that I probably want to draw out is that all through this journey, there were these amazing people that kept showing up at the right time for you, at the right time for Amber, to allow you guys to go on this journey together prior to her transitioning. And that in itself is incredible. Like, just to have those people show up when you were in those circumstances and just facilitate what needed to happen next. So that shows me just how special you are to be so open to allow that to come through. Also, the incredible energy of Amber, the wisdom and the insights at 4.5-year-old, an old soul. The thing that struck me, though, was that when you just explained about her energy coming into you when she transitioned, I remember Tal coming into me. I just knew with every cell in my body that something had happened. Every cell, I knew it. I didn't know what had happened. I didn't know where she was. I didn't know anything, but I knew. And that's the same sort of feeling, isn't it? And that, I think, allows us to have a different perspective on grief. So share with us now how you dealt with the aftermath of that. Once she transitioned, you knew she still was there in a different energy, but how did you get through that time, and what sort of things helped you the most to get back on track? Because you're still going to experience grief, aren't you?
Yeah. Yeah. Very interesting. So the moment was incredibly miraculous. So it was opposite of what I had written in the journal. But because we couldn't find anybody to come to the house to pronounce her dead after she died, like Bernie couldn't come because he may be in surgery. I couldn't get the ambulance. I couldn't get anybody to come. So Bernie said, just take her body, put it in the back of your car and drive to St. Raphael's, and I'll have somebody meet you there. We did. We put her body in the back. It looked like she was sleeping, basically. And I drove on I-95 from my home to New Haven to St. Raphael's. But before I got to the hospital, I heard, pull over, take a picture of Amber. People need to see dead. So believe me, even saying this now, when I explain this, it's even I am like, what? So I did. I pulled over a little abandoned 7-Eleven. I pulled over and I took my camera. I walked to the back of the station wagon. I opened up the back and I took a picture. I closed it. I got back in. I drove to the hospital. They brought a stretcher out. They were waiting for us. They brought a stretcher out. We went to the main entrance and I put her body on the stretcher and then wheeled her through these big doors. And when the doors parted, there was like a lot of people waiting, like probably over 100 people waiting,
Oh,
because they had followed us through the media. and Bernie had called the hospital. So they came to see Amber. So we went into the emergency area, a small room, and I remember she was dead. I remember the tumor was so big. It was like it was very big. It was like the size of a grapefruit. There was as much inside of her head as out. So I literally watched cancer eat her alive. Normally it's inside and you can't see it. So I looked at the tumor and I just took the tumor and I just shook it. And it was like soft and sickening. And at that very moment, my hatred and rage for cancer came to the fore. And I was like, I didn't know it. I knew some of the feelings. We got the notice that the caretaker was there, undertaker rather. And so we wheeled her down into the bowels of the hospital and in these dark hallways, and down at the end was the undertaker with the black body bag. So I went over, I picked her up and put her in the black body bag. And before I zipped it up, I kissed her lips. And at that time, at that moment, I literally left my body and was watching the scene. And then I zipped up the bag and he took her. From that point on, it took a few days for that miracle to the glory of it to dissipate, if you will. But then I spent the next few years basically just advocating for people that have been touched by cancer. I did that. I did some vigils around the White House, did a lot of TV, radio, and media, just trying to get people to prevent cancer, because chemicals cause cancer and chemical companies and lots of other pollution and all that stuff. But that's what causes cancer. Chemicals and our immune system's inability to fend off their effects. So I spent a lot of time. I had a nonprofit, Amber's Alliance. I went into DC, Washington, DC, and worked with the National Cancer Institute, interviewed the head of the National Cancer Institute, really felt that I needed to speak for the people that have been touched. So I spent many years doing that advocacy work. My anger and rage became replaced, rather. It was replaced by incredible love and kindness and empathy and gentleness. I'm still like, cancer is horrible. It really is. But I think that by being more loving towards people and sharing the light rather than the darkness, I consider myself a light worker, as you are, Helen. I work a lot with bereaved parents. I'm a moderator for David Kessler's Tender Hearts group. And what can I do now to elevate others? And how can I share Amber's legacy of light and laughter and hope? And so that's what I do now. I mean, it's a beautiful thing. I really love it.
I don't think you get a choice in this either, do you? It's just like you are taken on this journey. It's like me with my podcast. And I have mentioned previously that I was at a point where I nearly gave it up because I had so much else going on. And it was like the universe swept in and there was no way, no, you're not giving it up. And cleared the way and allowed me some breathing space, and then just to look at it with a different perspective. And then I realized the work that I'm doing is valuable. And sometimes we don't realize how it is touching others, how it is impacting others. But you on a much bigger scale, because I'm just a little fish in the ocean. But I just feel like we've been drawn on this mission. Are you feeling lost, anxious, unsure of how to navigate the loss of your beautiful loved one? Don't know where to head next? Yeah, I get that. Then you may be interested in a letter of hope and aloha to help you find out who you are right here and now, and how you can navigate that without being on that emotional roller coaster feeling out of control. That's a feeling I really disliked after Tal and then Adrian died. So I've developed an 8-week support program where each week you get an email of what worked for me, as well as other tried and true tools to help with grief. It's a beautiful, calming, healing resource that I think you're really going to like and that you can use in your everyday life to find out what works for you and what doesn't. And the great thing is, you find yourself feeling stronger and more in control so you can work out what you want life to look like going forward. So if this sounds like something you would like to check out, head over to my website or check out the link in the episode notes. You're looking for A Letter of Hope and Aroha. Did you know that you had these spiritual skills of intuition, of clairaudience, of channeling?
I did. I definitely did. And it's taken me many years to actually say this stuff out loud.
Good. Yeah.
Believe you me. But now I'm proud. So I knew, like I mentioned earlier, I chose my parents. They were horrific parents, by the way, and they prepared me for what I was about to endure. So I chose my parents. I remember being in the womb. I remember being born. It was excruciatingly painful. And I believe that most humans do, all humans have memory of being born, but they don't yet have the emotional or the skills of language. But it's so visceral. So I knew from a tiny thing that I was chosen. We're all chosen, I believe. Mm-hmm. We all have a life task and a life lesson to learn. But I knew it. And I remember my mom, she was standing at the sink doing some dishes. And I didn't quite reach the counter yet. So I must have been like 3. And I remember her looking down at me and saying, "What do you think you're going to do? Change the world?" And I looked up and I'm like, yes. And I believed it with all my heart. Yes. And there were many times where I knew I was an angel. I just knew it. I could speak with God. I had the angels around me. I had visions. I had visitations. It was pretty miraculous. But because marriages by narcissists, they tried to beat it out of me, literally, tried to beat that knowing out. And I simply just couldn't allow that to happen because this is why I'm here on earth. Yeah.
Those difficult situations, I like that you say that they prepare us because I believe the same. I endured a childhood that was pretty traumatic for me, being highly sensitive in a family that nobody else was. And never fitting in and feeling really abandoned and all of those sorts of feelings. And then when I reached an adult, I had that sort of perception that, okay, this is for a reason. This has made you stronger. And then enduring all the things that happened since, I think it is those situations, and as harsh as they are and as horrible and tragic as they are, they do prepare us, don't they, for losing a child in particular. Because I think by the time I lost Tal, I was opened up to being able to see that there was more to this experience, that there was more to her tragically dying, and that led me on this incredible journey. And you knew before then, you knew you had these beautiful gifts and were chosen in that. Oh, gosh, where do we go next? How did that lead you into all? Oh, no, go ahead.
No, you go.
I was just going to say, you have met some incredible people in your journey, like really pivotal people in the grief world and who are doing beautiful work. Like you mentioned David Kessler and Bernie Siegel. Oh my gosh, a maverick standing out on his own, advocating. Those are incredible people who have high profile, and you seem to just attract these people. Share with us what that's been like for you and how that has enabled you to help others.
I think I'm so with you. I'm as human as they come. And I just stand in awe. Like I have the client, I do a lot of grief work, so I have private clients, and I have a client who's 96, and she's been asking me to bring my book in. I see her a couple hours a week. So I brought Embrace the Angel. I think, I got a copy here. So here's Amber's book, right? So as I'm showing her, there's a lot of photographs because I tried to tell the story with photographs. And as I'm showing Minabelle the photographs, I'm like, that's my life. It's so unbelievable, really. So I've done some work with Elizabeth Kubler-Ross. And so I had sent Elizabeth the first draft, and she had made some notes. And then I sent her the final copy, and she actually reviewed this book. And one of the things she said, and this is one of the things that keeps me going. She goes, I just discovered Embrace the Angel. I read it through and through all over again. It's very beautiful and very touching, especially the dreams and her courage and wisdom. You need to share this with the world for Amber and Chad and all the many parents who need to know.
Wow.
Now, those words coming from Elizabeth teaches me that I need to share this. I can't stay holed up in my tiny home, licking my wounds.
Yeah.
So that's one of the things. So what I've come to do, which I love. So I have a company, Tobias and Company, and I take photographs in different places around the world of doors and windows and door knockers and creatures like gargoyles. And then I put them onto silk satin ties and scarves and pillows. So like I have a Naval Academy collection and a Tuscany collection. And what I decided to do is to do an Embrace the Angel collection. So I took photographs of angels from around the world and put them onto silk ties and scarves. And then I collected drawings of angels from children around the world and put them onto silk satin pillows. So we have, Tobias and Company has a giving back division that we call Embrace the Angel. So for everyone purchased, we donate one of these Embrace the Angel scarves, ties, and pillows to somebody who's grieving or dying to elevate them. So we have two now. We have an Embrace the Angel pillow, and we have Grace's Angels. This little 9-year-old girl, Grace, collected 100 drawings for sick kids around the world. So now we have Grace's Angels pillow, and it's got a bunch of, I injected little words of like elevation and joy. So that's one thing we do. We donate these to people because I needed to feel that elevation and inspiration. Anyway, it's a really cool thing. The other thing that I love, love, love to do, and you alluded to it earlier about you just don't ever really know where those ripples go. And people really know. I swear it is. I call myself a pebble thrower.
Oh, I love that term.
On life. So this is the coolest thing ever. And it's not just me. It's me and Amber, because I'm living here to live her legacy. So anyway, I keep these with me. It's a little blue pouch wherever I go. And so if I'm in the market, if I feel led, I'll just say, oh, I have something for you. And then I'll say, I'm a pebble thrower in the still pond of life. And these are my pebbles. So I'll say, choose one for yourself and one for someone you love. It's the coolest thing.
Oh,
so these are our little Embrace the Angel cards. I'm not selling anything with it. It's a message from the angels, right? And on the back is a guardian angel coin, little pewter coin with a word. There's 5 words. So then I'll say to them, okay, so choose one. So peel off your pebble and let's see what your special word is. Helen, these tiny little cards and coins have just changed lives. I've been doing it about 15 years now, and people have dropped to the floor uncontrollably crying. And most of them are like, oh, can I hug you?
Wow.
And I'm like, embrace the angel. Come on. And it's been absolutely phenomenal. Just to give one tiny little coin that I throw into the still pond of life, not knowing where these ripples go. And I started doing choose one for yourself and one for someone you love, because now they're pebble throwers.
Yes.
And it's so cool.
Oh, that's the best story ever. That's it. To me, giving is such a powerful form that just transforms your life. When you're able to give to others, and it doesn't need to be anything big, it can be just like you say, you give that guardian angel to somebody and it just transforms their life. It opens them up, it cracks them open. And it can be your time. It can be just sitting there listening to somebody share their story. It doesn't matter how you give, but it's the giving. And that just manifests more love, doesn't it? And oh, I don't know about you. You can meet all these fabulous people like Elizabeth and David and Bernie and all of those. But when you're in the marketplace and you see the reaction of that complete stranger from the gift that you've given them, I don't know, but that really tugs on my heartstrings. Just you sharing about it. Yeah.
I love it. I'm like you. I see people and I admire people that are in the public eye, that have
Yes.
accomplished a lot of things. I see them as human, just like me. They burp, they sleep, they cry,
Yes.
they get angry. And I've been honored to know people, but you are so right. People in the market, people on the bus. I take a shuttle bus to work. Just people, everyday people.
Yep.
And these tiny little coins, how they've changed lives. Or even the Embrace the Angel stuff, the pillows. I'll get a word of some child with cancer and I'll ship a pillow and I'll get a photograph of this child, right? No hair, just hugging with a big, huge smile, hugging Grace's angels. It's
How beautiful.
fantastic.
How beautiful.
Yeah. And there's a cool 45-second audio that Grace,
I
that her
listened to
mom
that.
listened.
Yes.
Oh, did you?
Yeah.
What did you think?
Oh, beautiful. What a gorgeous wee girl she is. To just want to do something so powerful and get her school on board and have the backing of her mum and just transforming their lives with those pillows. Oh,
Isn't that cool?
yes.
Well, Grace came up with the idea. Now we're working on our third pillow called Animal Angels. So I'm going to put some things up on Embrace the Calm. But by the way, you can listen, for those in your audience that want to hear one of our wise ones, because I think our children are the wise ones. Talk about angels. It's amazing. It's right on the homepage of Embrace the Angel. And you can also get a free ebook, a free PDF. You can get it on Amazon, but also you can get a free PDF. Embrace the Angel.
It's exciting times we're in now too, because I feel the energy is shifting. And like you say, you couldn't talk about your skills that you have to communicate with those on the other side. Now you can. Now it's more open. Now there is more. I hope we're doing a lot to shift how people deal with grief. But most importantly, let's talk about it more. Let's just know that's going to be a reality at some stage or another. And let's just have those beautiful conversations before with our loved ones. And I think that's what you're facilitating so much. Like a lot of us are having to go through cancer journeys with our loved ones. And that is so heartbreaking. It just seems so prevalent and such a scourge on our society that so many are afflicted. But let's talk now about something, because I think this is lovely. This really struck me. You liken grief to an injury, Patti. And I like your analogy around this. So can you just share that with us?
For any of us who have ever been children who have fallen down and scraped their knees, it's painful and it's bloody sometimes and it hurts for a long time. And then it scabs over and that even hurts sometimes. and then the scab falls off, or you pick it off and it bleeds again. So you got to wait longer. So if you liken it to grief, you just pick that scab off and it bleeds some more. But eventually it does scar. And that's what we're left with. We're left with a scar. And I always find it such a beautiful thing when you can actually not be repulsed by somebody's scar, but actually kiss that scar and treasure how that came to be. Yeah, I do see grief that way. It never goes away. I don't believe it ever goes away.
Nope.
But I do think that it can heal. You'll never be the same. You'll always have that scar tissue. But if you can find another human or even yourself and just be tender and loving and compassionate, and we all need that.
Mm-hmm.
I talked about earlier about remember being born, as we all do. And I also believe that when they cut that cord to life, really, the umbilical cord, for the rest of our lives, we spend, sometimes conscious, sometimes not, we spend our time trying to reconnect.
Oh, yes.
And every human is that way. I mean, you find ways of reconnecting. So I do think that if we realize that we were cut from life, but life not only existed in the womb, it exists in another dimension that we don't see with our eyes. It's like the wind. Like this other dimension that I'm talking, there's many. There's, 3 dimensions, 4, 5, 6, 7. There's many dimensions that we don't see. But it's like the wind. How do you know that there is wind? Well, you see the results of it. You feel the effects of it, right? So, yeah, there's a whole galaxy. There's a whole universe beyond what we see with our eyes and our senses, our physical senses.
Yeah. It's allowing ourselves to open up to that. What is the most profound insight that Amber channeled in her book to you?
I think I'd mentioned it earlier about, Mom, when I die, I'll still be Amber. I'll just be different.
Yeah.
So for me, my responsibility was to stay open, to feel that difference, to know the difference, to live that difference, not to close off my heart in grief and pain and anguish. Because if I closed my heart off, she couldn't get in. So I had to keep it open. That was the hardest thing, I think, in my personal journey through grief is, not closing up. Because you want to go in the corner like an animal and just lick your wounds.
Yeah, hunker down.
Feeling
Yeah.
hurt. Yeah. So, all of us are angels, but there are people in this world who have chosen, it's an actual choice. They've chosen the dark.
Mm-hmm.
And I love it. Mr. Rogers says, in an emergency, always look for the helpers. So I choose to look for the light workers. And I'm aligning with so many other light workers in this world. There's so many of us.
Yes.
But we haven't yet, and I say yet, that's one of my favorite words. We haven't yet exploded onto the stage, the world stage. But I think we're getting real close, like really close. And if I have anything to do or say about it, and I do, it's going to be very soon.
I hope so too. Before you get there though, share with us in your work of working with so many people experiencing different forms of grief, because grief is not just be our children dying or somebody we love dying. It can be the loss of relationships, the loss of not realizing who we thought we would be. I've even heard of mums that have been really well regarded in the workplace, and when they leave that to be mums, they feel a huge grief, loss of identity. So it happens in so many forms. Of the people you deal with, and especially those at the end stages of their life, What are the main regrets that these people are sharing with you?
Probably the thing that pops right into my mind is I call it hidden grief.
Yes.
Because our culture and death and dying around the world is very different. But in America, our culture here is one of the death of a human is the only death that you can grieve. And I personally have had many experiences with grief that have been devastating for me. The last one that was for me, for just me, more devastating than the death of my daughter was living for 22 years with a malignant narcissist, because Amber's death had meaning and purpose and power. But being abused and mistreated was so unjust and so unneeded. And so I deal, and I'm a grief educator and a grief coach as well. So I deal with folks that are recovering or trying to heal from narcissistic abuse, grief from that.
Yes.
Because it's loss of a dream, loss of your own self-trust. It kills people. It really does. But yeah, I do a lot of pet loss coaching. And pets, for goodness sakes, if humans could only be like pets and fur babies. Come on. We should learn or call our fur babies the wise ones too.
Yes.
They know.
Yes.
They love unconditionally.
Yes.
So pet loss is a big thing. And again, people get dismissed. Oh, it's only a cat or it's only a bird or whatever. So that's one of the other ones that's really dismissed. But yeah, loss of a lifestyle. I work a lot with elders. I'm 70, so I'm an elder too, but people that are much older than I. And it's the loss of a life that they had before they moved into a facility.
Yes.
That's huge.
Yes.
And that is a huge part of our culture that is not being addressed. There's so many people. I worked in an assisted living facility. And so many people are just neglected. I love my elders so much. One of the things I love about my life is that I've taken some of the life lessons that I've learned the really hard way. And because I'm a graphic artist, so I took these life lessons, like when I became a grief educator, I said, oh, I need to educate people. So I did a 1-page graphic about grief, what to say, what not to say, what it looks like, the phases, blah, 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 and put them onto t-shirts and tote bags and things like that. So I have my Love and Learn collection. So I have grief. I have red flags of a narcissist because I imagined standing in line behind someone and that where I didn't know what was going on. And I read this t-shirt and I'm like, oh my God, that's me.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I have grief. I have red flags of a narcissist, and I have highly sensitive people. It's based on Elaine Aron's book, Highly Sensitive Persons, HSPs. And it just goes 1 page, like Cliff Notes, real simple. Mm-hmm. So that's a really fun, worthwhile.
You're doing so much in that arena. I can just see you just like this bundle of energy, really, with all these strings to your bow. The information that you're sharing is just so invaluable because it's coming from your heart, it's coming from your lived experiences, and it's coming from those people that you're sharing your life with. So I always feel that people relate to that more because they can see themselves in it. And that's so beautiful. I'm going to wind things up here now, but what I would love is to get you back again because there are so many other things that I want to talk about, color and the therapeutic benefits of that and some things that we can help our listeners to stay centered and balanced, all those sorts of information that we haven't even begun to touch on. And I don't want to rush through it because I don't think that does justice to it when we only give a snippet and it's okay. And we leave people hanging. And so if you're agreeable, should we just connect again just when you're able to clear your schedule and find a bit of time for me and run through a bit more of the wonderful things that you're doing for people and the resources you have?
I would love that because I'm a builder and a creator at heart. And if you have a really great toolbox with really nice tools, you can build something beautiful. I have some really amazing tools. I have some free resources available. You can poke around on embracetheangel.com or pattydimiceli.com. But yeah, and it's being able to provide tools for people. It's like that phrase about give a man a fish and he'll be hungry the next day.
Yeah.
But teach him how to fish and he can feed the village.
Yes. And that's so
Yeah.
important. And that's what I loved about you when I was researching you. You've got 3 different websites and they've all got these incredible resources on them that I went down a few rabbit holes exploring them. but
You live.
And this is what people need access to find what works for them in their grief and how that presents and how that looks. Because as unique as individuals we are, so is our grief. It's all layered with what we've experienced in our life. And so no 2 people are going to have the same looking grief. They may have similarities, but it's always going to be unique to each person. I'd love to just finish off, Patti, with just 3 quick questions I ask everybody I interview. So what is the best thing that has happened to you so far today?
Today?
Yes.
The best thing was, this sounds maybe a little canned, but truly just spending this hour with you. I was pulling weeds before we met.
Oh, great form of meditation that.
Yes, they're like toxic people. I just pull them out of my life.
Oh, I'm grateful for you sharing that. That's really lovely. What is something that you are most grateful for?
The connection that I have with myself and with every single person in this world and beyond it. I'm definitely connected to the other side, and I'm connected to people here on earth, whether they're in my presence or not. We are connected right now.
Yes.
That's amazing.
I felt that very strongly just as you were talking. I could just feel that beautiful connection. And that's what people don't realize. Your energy goes far and wide. We're on the other side of the world and we're feeling each other and so connected. And I think that's beautiful and powerful. We are all so powerful if we allow ourselves to step into that and be that and recognize that. Patti, when you have moments in your day that are looking a little dark, and we have this expression here, when they're turning to custard, how do you pivot out of those moments?
How do I get out of those moments?
Yes.
I do have some moments where I sit at the bottom of my shower and weep and let the tears go down the drain. And I hear Amber's voice saying to me, Mom, tears are liquid love. We cry because we feel, and we feel because we care. So, tears are liquid love. And I truly believe that. And knowing that letting my tears flow without apology, like once I heard that years and years ago, I stopped apologizing for my tears. I never apologize anymore because that would be like apologizing for love.
Yeah. Or breathing.
Yeah.
And we've been taught to be so stoic around our crying, but actually what happens within our bodies when we allow ourselves to cry, cry, it's actually the body's way of rebalancing itself, calming our nervous system down, getting us back on track. When we suppress it, we don't allow ourselves to do that. So thank you for sharing that. That is so important. And I hope anybody listening will just allow themselves to cry fully and freely. I'm going to have all the links to your websites and how people get in touch with you and how they can see these incredible resources that you're sharing. But just briefly share with us now how they can reach you.
Yeah, if you go to any of the websites, but Patti DiMiceli, PattiDimiceli.com, and Embrace the Angel, one angel.com, you can reach me. So either one of those places. My email is Patti, Patti, .embracetheangel@gmail.com.
Beautiful, beautiful. And I can tell you've shared that a few times because of the way you do it. You just do it so that people can write it down as you're saying it. And how great is that? Hey, Patti, I just have to tell you that I knew right from the outset, and I want to thank you for reaching out to me. I just felt this beautiful energy that embraces you. And I just think that you're just one of these truly beautiful earth angels that exist for us to learn of. And what a privilege it has been to spend this brief time with you today. And like I said to you, I would love just to go down another tangent with you because I believe that you do have so much that you can share with people. So I want to just thank you from the bottom of my heart for your beautiful energy, for your beautiful wisdom, for sharing this incredible story about Amber, and for all the incredible work that you were doing. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Gosh, thank you so very much. I'm very grateful for you, Helen, and the world needs you. The world needs you and needs Tall.
Thank you. All right. Thanks for listening. I hope you got some real value from this episode. If there's a topic you'd like covered, click on the Beautiful Side of Grief at gmail.com link, or go into the beautifulsideofgrief.com website, where you can also leave a review. To get notified of new episodes, hit the subscribe button. And if you know of somebody who could benefit from this episode, please share. And until next time, please be kind to you and take good care.